What the heck is up? Welcome to another episode of the Good Time Podcast. I'm in Fargo, North Dakota.
You're
My
far,
friend,
bro.
yeah, my friend Joe here is in Rochester, and we're gonna do something different today. Before we start, head over to Spotify. Please head over to Spotify, leave us a 5-star rating, write a review, ask a question in the comments. Find our new YouTube channel.
Mm.
Find our Instagram account at The Good Time Pod. If this podcast doesn't keep growing, we're going to stop doing it. So make sure that it keeps growing. That's a lie that we're going to stop doing it, but I'm going to keep threatening it because we need the podcast to keep growing. So um, we're going to do something different today. Joe did some research and found a bunch of drumming myths, and he's going to ask me about drumming myths, and I'll give my thoughts, and he'll chime in. And I haven't read any of these or seen any of them, so it'll be kind of a fun thing to do. So, Joe, why don't we kick it off here?
All right, our first drumming myth: more expensive drums always sound better. What do you think?
I mean, keyword there is always, and
Always,
that is
right?
yeah. That is a myth. That is a 1000% a myth. I'm sure some of you guys watch Joe's channel, and you know, anybody with half a brain cell in 2026 can figure out that you don't need a exotic DW collector's drum kit to sound good.
Correct.
Um, in fact, I've actually found that most of the best sounding drum sets, I mean, obviously you have the high end stuff that does sound great, but some of the best sounding kits I've ever heard just in person, because it's so like room dependent, it's so player dependent, it's so I mean, the player is the most important part. I'll die on that hill every day of the week.
Yeah,
But
fact.
I'll never forget. Whenever I think about this, I always think about this video of Thomas Pridgen playing like a little kid's drum kit in like a Guitar Center or something, like literally like $100 like children's drum set, like for 5-year-olds,
Yeah,
and
sounding crazy good.
it sounds awesome.
Yeah,
So I always think about that, my brain always, goes straight to like the mid-level kits because it's the mid-level stuff, you know, that it holds a lot of value. It can sound awesome. You can find it used for, a couple $100 less than you'd pay for it new. So
and the hardware is better, right? Because isn't that the main key factor? Like the drums do sound different, especially when you get towards the top. But a low end drum kit and a high end drum kit, I'm gonna get the drums to sound good. It's the hardware that I'm paying
hardware.
for, right? The tension
The
rods
hu-
don't
mo
get loose as quick and that stuff.
most of the time what you're paying for is hardware, or like I remember, I don't know what it's like now, but I remember in the 2010s there was this whole DW Performance versus DW Collectors era, and I
Mm.
had both kits. I had a couple DW Collectors kits. I had a Performance rig. The Performance rig at the time, it was the same thing. It was the shells were made in the same place. It was the same shells. The literally the only difference was the collector's kits had reinforcement rings on the inside, which, you know, people can argue all day about whether or not those change the tone of a drum. They do. They dampen the shell a little bit, whatever. But I mean, it's a taste thing. It's a preference thing. I'm not gonna sit here. You're never gonna hear me say that a reinforcement ring makes a drum sound better. Just like as a general statement, because it's not always true.
Mm.
Um, And then the other thing was that the hardware, the collector's lugs are a a little bigger, and the
Hmm.
performance lugs are smaller.
And then the
So I
design
was
is
like,
even smaller, right?
and
It
then the
goes
design's
down the
even
line.
smaller.
Yeah.
But I remember buying a kit and going, I'm gonna pay twice as much for the collector's kit. I don't even really want the re-rings. In fact,
Mm.
I don't even know if I want the bigger hardware. Like the older I get, I want high quality hardware, but I don't want a bunch of metal all over the drums. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No,
So.
dude, I had a collector's kit and a performance kit at the exact same time, and I directly would compare them every day just playing drums. I sold the collector's kit and just kept the performance, which I still have. And I liked the smaller lugs because the drum was a little lighter. It didn't have the re-rings.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
sounded better to me. Like the performance is the move.
I'm with you there. And then, I think back to the days when I was playing in bands where we were like backlining drum kits all the time. I remember playing two separate Thomas Starr Classic kits. This is another kit that always comes to mind. It's just like I don't know what it's like now. I haven't looked in a while, but man, there was a period where those were 1,200 bucks new or 1,100 bucks new. They're definitely more than that now, but I remember there was a period where you could get these used for like 700, 800 bucks, and then like,
Yeah.
dude, that is such a steal. You'll have that kit for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Um, Tama Star Classics are awesome. The only problem I have with Tama is that their tension rods are too damn skinny.
I
But
hate that. I hate that. Why they got to be different?
dude, there's no point. There's literally no
Yeah.
point. And I'm not sure. I had somebody try to explain to me like, oh, maybe it's just the factory they use. Maybe it's just like I don't know what it is. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's so stupid that you would have a skinny tension rod top, but the drums are awesome. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Fair. Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, more expensive drums always sound better. That's false.
false.
False. Okay, let's see what else we got. Here's another one. This one's kind of funny. You have to read music to be a good drummer.
That's another good one.
Is that
Uh,
true? Or what? I mean, I'll tell you right now, I can't read music for shit.
Most definitely false.
Yeah.
I can barely read sheet music.
Mm.
I can't read real music. I mean, I can sit there and pick out the notes if I like stared long enough at it. I can go like, okay, I think that's a C and that's a, but I can't like sight read sheet music, and I can't even sight read drum sheet music. If it was simple, if it was some meat and potatoes drumming, I could probably look at it and sight read it. But if you're sight reading meat and potatoes drumming, you're basically improvising the whole show anyway. You're just using the sheet music to count and then be
Mm.
like, oh, here comes a fill. No, you don't have to. In fact, I know most of the world's best drummers, literally, and very few of them know how to read sheet music.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
it's not it's not mandatory. I think it's cool if you can. I think it's really cool. I think what gets lame is when people like knock it. They're like, oh, you don't have, people like try to
Yeah.
talk shit about. It's like it's great if you know how to read sheet music. I'm just saying that you definitely don't need to read sheet music to be a great drummer. And not only that, you don't need to be able to read music to be a great musician, period. Some of the best musicians I know, songwriters, just the people with the most sauce who like do the coolest shit, can't read a lick of music.
No, no, they
You know
didn't
what I
go to
mean?
school for it.
You
They're
think
not
Ronnie
traditionally trained in music.
you think Ronnie Radke can read music? No.
Yeah, right, right.
He
No
puts
way.
out two smash hits a year.
Yeah. Yeah. Tabs. I used to look up tabs a lot. Like it's kind of
Tabs,
like
yeah.
reading music, but it just shows you, what drum you're
Tab
hitting when you're hitting it.
Tabs are really cool, and I think just a better way to look at drums anyway. I don't know, because drums are it's really not like you're not like it's not a scale. You don't have you know what I mean. You don't have
Yeah.
scale with octaves. You have like basically four main drums that you're hitting, and then
Yeah.
you need a line for like crash and a line for hi hat,
Yeah.
and everything else like you know what I mean. Everything else is like nuanced and but I will say this: there's guys I know who can read really well, who went to school for it and everything, and they can't learn for ear to save their life, learn by ear
Yeah.
to save their life. And
Yeah.
that to me, I actually think that is way more, being able to learn by ear is way more important than being able to read sheet music, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's a
So,
huge disservice. If you're only
yeah,
a paper guy and you can't do it without the paper, you got to learn that because you got to be able to, you got to be able to listen to something and know what he's doing and play it at
100%,
at a high level, if you want to be a pro.
100%.
Okay, this one, I know we've talked about this before, but we're gonna revisit it. Moon gels fix bad tuning. What's the deal with that, brother?
Damn, this is a good one because this is probably a highly contested one. Moon gels fix bad tuning. The way that that sentence is written, it is definitely a myth because you're not fixing bad tuning. All you're doing is you're just muffling the overtones out of your drum. That's all that's happening. I always tell people I'm like, I'm not an expert at anything, but I'm an expert at tuning drums. That's the one thing I'm like, I know for sure I'll take myself against anybody on
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
Okay. When you tune a drum really well, you are literally creating a note with the drum, whether it's a snare drum, a kick drum, a rack tom, a floor tom, you're creating a note. Obviously, you hear the notes better out of a tom. You know what I mean? But even your kick, it's like it's very subtle, but you're registering a note there. If you hold up a tune bot next to it, it'll tell you like 68 hertz a D or whatever. I don't know off the top of my head, but whatever that is. Because notes are just hertz. They're frequencies, right? So low frequencies are low notes, high frequencies are high notes. So point of all this is if you tune a drum perfectly, the overtones, so maybe unwanted tones, like a lot of people hear overtone and their butthole clenches because they're like, I can't take this idea that there would be extra sounds coming out of this drum. But if you tune it properly, the overtones um, enhance the sound of the drum, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It creates a wider spectrum and a bigger picture of the drum, and you can hear the full body and everything this drum has to offer. If you tune a drum poorly, those overtones are nasty,
Mm.
right? So that's what people hear and they go, these are nasty overtones, and they stick moon gels all over everything or snare weights or whatever, and they just try to get those nasty overtones out of there to just knock this full spectrum of a sound, knock it down to just like a couple different tones or one tone. So it just turns into more of like a thud, which works in a lot of scenarios. And there's a time and place for a super muffled drum. There's a time and place for a super open drum. I'm not saying that moon gels are bad. Moon gels are great, and dampening and muffling and all this stuff. Like these are great tools. But it doesn't fix bad tuning. All you're doing is just muffling bad tuning.
Yeah, yeah. That's my main thing. If I'm seen in a video using a moon gel, you'll surely get one of them comments, especially on Facebook, and it's like, if you just learn how to tune your drums, you won't need those moon gels. So many people out there are, they're correlating those two things together. In my mind, I tune a drum first. That's the first thing I do. There's no dampening on it. I tune the drum the best of my ability. I get it to sound great. From there, I'll dampen it. So it's not even like
Yes.
learn how to tune your drums. It's like I did tune it. I'm just dampening it. So I
I
can't
think
stand that take too. That's like,
people conflate the two things. You can tune a drum well and still want to use dampening for
mm,
whatever
yeah,
reason. That on that day, that room, that club, that amphitheater, that front of house engineer, like I think what a lot of people don't realize is that on a professional level, the relationship between the drum tech and the front of house engineer, or the drummer and the front of house engineer, a lot of these conversations come up because it's like the front of house engineer is hearing they solo a microphone on a rack tom, on a 12-inch rack tom, and it's going boing, 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 and they can
yeah,
just hear it when they solo it. They can hear it. If they pump it out of the PA, you can't really hear it most of the time, but they hear that and they go, get that out of there. Just like get that sound out of there. And even if you tune the drum really well, sometimes they just, you got to throw a moon gel on there or whatever. So, point
yeah,
is, moon gels are not going to fix your tuning. All they're doing is dampening your bad tuning. So, or dampening your good tuning. That's
yeah.
it.
It's
So,
just toning it down. It's just dampening
toning it
whatever
down.
you
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it
Yep.
is. So, by the way, what people say on Facebook, like, oh, if you only learned how to tune your drums, you wouldn't need moon gels.
Yeah.
It's
It's like,
just
then how do I dampen it then? What if I want it dampened?
it's a very dumb take because if you look at some of the biggest pop drummers on planet Earth, their drums are tuned really well, but they have a lot of dampening and they're using P4s, and you know, they're using those kick heads on floor toms. The kick heads with the EMADs and shit. They're putting those
Yeah.
on floor toms now to make them like super dead.
Yep.
You basically get like two more kick drums, two more like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's a specific sound. It's a specific way to make your drums sound. It's all really dry. But they'll put P77s on the snare, like super dry snare heads. That's a sound. If
Yep.
you don't really see it a lot with like big rock bands. With big rock bands, you see a lot of open tuning,
Mm.
right? So
Big drums
there's
and big
big
sounds.
drums. There's a time and place for all of it.
Fair. Yeah. Moon gels, like Anthony said, learn how to tune your damn drums, brothers and sisters.
Yeah,
All right, next one.
yeah.
Vintage drums automatically sound better than new drums.
Mm.
Mm. I don't know who wrote that myth, but my initial thoughts is like, give me the new John, but let me hear your take on that.
Dude, this is a battle I've had my whole life, even since I was a little kid. I remember there was this, but I'm not going to call him a buddy. There was this guy I knew in high school who was like, I don't know how he thought about it, but I wanted to be better than him at drums. I grew up in a small town and there was only like 3 or 4 drummers, and I wanted to be the best. And like
Yeah.
this guy, uh, bothered me for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons he bothered me is one, he had this like Frankenstein kit. You know those kits you see on Facebook Marketplace where the toms, the 2 rack toms are like somehow a foot apart from each other? There's literally this much space in between the toms.
Oh yeah. Every day.
And yeah, like we were looking on a marketplace the other day.
Yeah.
He had a kit like that, and it was literally mismatched, completely mismatched. We were 16 years old, and this guy goes, "It's like, yeah, I went down to Seattle, and I went to these different drum shops, and I took this cymbal in, and I was hearing this cymbal with this cymbal, and I brought this rack tom into this shop, and I listened to it with the floor tom, and
I
this
built
kick
this
drum,
masterpiece.
bro, dude." And it was like the biggest. I'm sure in hindsight they were cool drums in a vacuum, but it was such a piece of shit of a drum kit. Like kick sounded terrible. He couldn't well, first of all, the guy we both sucked at drums. Like nobody knew what they were doing. So to be like a teenager pretending that you're like, yeah, I took this vintage, this is a 1965 and I put it next to this
Yeah.
other Ludwig in 1948. But it's like, dude, this is all fake.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. And I just remember him having this thing, and then he I remember I'll never forget. He's like, I went on eBay. He spent like $180. This was in like 2007. He spent $180 for some sort of like those old back in the day the the cymbal stands that attach to the kick drum and they're
Oh
hella
yeah.
janky. Like
Yeah.
the super janky ones from back in the day, like came straight out of the kick drum.
Yeah.
It's like he had to special order some, vintage piece so that he could put a 12-inch splash, which is like the worst size splash possible. Put a 12-inch splash on the top of his kick drum. The kick spurs didn't hold at all. It was constantly sliding, falling over, shit was breaking. And I'm just sitting there going like, I have a fully uniform Yamaha Oak Custom, which is so badass and absolutely smashes this kit. And it's brand new and the hardware is great. It sounds great. It's loud. It's punchy. And you're trying to
Mm.
sit here and I spent $900 for it. And you're trying to sit here and tell me that your $3,000 in mismatched vintage drums with a fucking 12-inch splash cymbal sticking out of the kick drum is better than my kit?
No way.
No, there's no
No.
way.
No
So
shot.
automatically sound better? Absolutely not. That's a myth. Are there vintage drums that sound great? 1000%. There's a ton of them that sound amazing. But you have to remember that, in my opinion, the things that make a drum sound great are A, the player, but B, is the drum literally perfectly round? Because like when a drum isn't perfectly round, it becomes very hard to tune. If the edges are messed up, it becomes hard to tune. I have a vintage Ludwig kit. I have a kit from the 60s that I got re-edged by Bill from Pork Pie, who's like very good at this. It's still a bitch to tune. It's like impossible to tune. It's
Yeah.
it's
She's
it's
old.
all warped. It's warped. It's funky. It's like so when guys are trying to tell me some drum kit from the 60s, like a three ply Ludwig kit that's like made with old technology, old wood, like whatever. It's like you can't tell me this is like just take a modern kit and make it sound vintage. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Put
Well,
some
that's
towels
the,
on there.
yeah. And the bearing edges, right? Because those vintage kits
Yeah.
have like the round edge. That's why they
Hmm.
get that vintage sound. Whereas nowadays they're more 45 degree, they're sharper. There's
Yeah.
people you can buy a shell from Keller with a vintage round. You can make a
Yes.
modern drum with that vintage sound with good hardware
Absolutely.
today. That's way
There's
better than something from the 60s. So,
there's companies, every major company has some version of that, and it's like,
yeah.
yeah, I just don't really. I'm not knocking vintage drums here, so I want to be really clear about that. I love vintage drums. I think there's a lot of really cool vintage drums. I am just the type of a player that like I need really sturdy gear, right? And I'm really really picky about this stuff, like especially when it comes to like we said earlier, hardware. Dude, snare drum throw offs. You can't tell me that a throw off from the 60s is better than a trick throw off from
No way.
today. It's
No
just
shot.
not. It's not going to hold up. It won't hold up for my show. Like I cannot play a show on a snare like that. They're cool
No.
drums. They're cool to have. It's a cool thing to tap on, whatever. But um, I've just never been super hyped on vintage drums because it's just all so old. It's like I grew up playing golf it to me, I've always looked at it like nobody's playing golf clubs from the 60s. That shit's like wooden shafts and like old technology. Like it's just,
Yeah,
are there cool collector's pieces? Are there drums that sound great? Are there drums that work in certain environments? You can take a vintage, a 60, 70-year-old drum kit to a jazz club and tap on it. Absolutely. That stuff is awesome. But I mean, for me personally,
no, not true. That general
not.
statement that vintage drums always sound better, false. Disagree.
Is yeah, I'm actually getting one of those Pearl President series as we speak. I'm getting one for our upcoming tour. That's like a modern take on a vintage kit, and it's going to be brand new, but it's going to sound vintagey, which is great. Like,
That's
you know
sick.
what I mean? So, anyway,
Next one we got this one. Only expensive cymbals sound good. Right? This one is like you got to think because expensive. I'm already thinking what
I'm going to
price
say this is
point.
true. This is actually true. The word only is the kicker here because it's not 100% true. There are some cheap cymbals that sound good. Um, For example, Hawthorne Drum Shop, shout out Hawthorne Drum Shop in Pittsburgh. They just came out recently, a couple months ago, with a line of like house cymbals. They're just unbranded, just like house cymbals that they had made, and they're selling crashes for like 180 bucks or 170 bucks, and
And
they
they
sound
sound good.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sound awesome. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's a myth technically because of the word only, but I will say this. Generally speaking, you need expensive cymbals. Like it's that all the top end ones are the best ones. That's my opinion. And like even with the example I'm giving, those Hawthorne crashes are awesome, but they're not better than A customs.
Right.
Not to me at least, right? Like I think they're
Yeah, sure.
cool. Um,
But it's not like a B8. It doesn't have that like pingy cheap cymbal.
Yes.
Right.
It's not a B8, it's not a PST, it's not a, HCS, it's not a whatever, but
Yeah.
they're playable symbols. They sound good. But I'm still gonna take this is not the same thing as comparing a performance to a collector's because a performance can sound better than a collector's. I've never heard a $180 brand new crash sound better than an A custom. Never heard it in my life.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, you don't need the most expensive, but generally speaking, the higher end symbols do literally just sound better. Like you kind
Yeah.
of just see that across the board.
You know where cheap cymbals actually can sound really good? Like real
Mhm.
cheap, shitty cymbals when you're making a stack.
Oh yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah,
stacks
yeah.
are supposed to sound like that, like shitty kind of, I mean, in a good
Yeah,
way,
you
but
totally you can use cheap cymbals to make a stack. I've heard cheap hi-hats that sound pretty good, where I go, okay, that's like a
oh,
passable hi-hat,
dude,
you know.
dude, a lot of the church guys, shout out to all my gospel chop drummers out there. They swear by the 13-inch, specifically the 13-inch B8s. Like
Interesting.
those are
Interesting.
yeah, those like hold up. Like they like those.
I gotta hear the okay, all right. Shout out 13-inch saving. I didn't know they
Yeah.
made 13-inch BAs. That's so funny.
Yeah, it's like a joke in the church
Yeah.
drumming community. I believe
That's
from what I
funny.
yeah, it's funny. Yeah,
Interesting.
the 13-inch B8's like slap. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would like I said, I would say like that's the closest one to a truth we've had so far.
yeah.
Because symbol dude, I mean if you're talking about yeah, I just want the best sounding stuff and I can objectively say like the best sounding symbols I've ever heard are the most expensive. So,
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
the most expensive. Like obviously every company has their like crazy, line of just whatever. But the K Constantinople's, right, for example, awesome symbols. Like, are they worth if is does $1,000 ride really sound $400 better than a $600 ride? Not really. But
Yeah.
but a $600 ride almost always sounds better than a $200 or $300 ride, if that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you, what do you think is an acceptable range? Because Zildjian, you're a Zildjian guy, so we'll use Zildjian. They have a bunch of different lines, like you were saying, the K's at the top, A's. They have a bunch of mid-range. There's S, I's, ZBTs, and Planet Z's. What is the bottom line, like acceptable one to sound good from the Zildjian line? I feel like the S's aren't those a little above the?
They're definitely better. Like the S's are definitely better than like ZBTs and stuff, but I'm not gonna play them. Like
Yeah, sure.
I'm just they're okay. They're fine. Like
Mm,
they're probably the S's are probably the lowest passable symbols you could buy.
there you
But
go.
I would go out on a limb and say if I was like young and broke again, I would probably go for, I would just buy used A's and K's. That's
Yeah.
probably what I would do, and just take the risk on it. Try to buy them from like old guys who didn't hit them very hard.
Yep.
You know, buy crash cymbals that are 15 years old. The logos are all worn off, but like, because dude, cheap cymbals just sound like so bad to my ears. It's just
Yeah.
like I could make $100 snare drum sound good. $100 cymbal,
Yeah.
there's pretty much nothing you can do to it to
Yeah.
make it
There's nothing
sound
you can
good.
do. Yep.
So,
Unless you use it as a
yeah,
stack.
as easy to stack. That's right. I'd be curious if there's some cymbal brand out there that I've never heard of that's like somehow found a way to make really good cymbals cheaply. But like I learned all these lessons the hard way because like growing up, like for example, okay, here's what happened. I was a teenager. I loved Joey Jordison. Okay, and rest in peace, Joey. And I wanted all Pisces because of Joey.
Sure.
I wanted the white pasties. You remember when he had those
Oh yeah.
white pasties?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was so sick.
That's so
Those
sick.
probably sounded like shit in real life, but um, I thought it was so cool. And I just wanted pasties. I thought I was too inexperienced to be able to tell the difference. I thought any pasties work. I went on I went on musiciansfriend.com and I looked up Pisces symbols and I went, "Oh, I can get a pack of Pisces symbols for like $200 or whatever, or I could spend somehow $250 a symbol. How does this make any sense? They're just symbols. They don't sound. How can they? And I ordered a whole pack of Pisces PSTs. I'm
Yeah.
talking. I think I had a pack plus extras. So like I had a splash, couple crashes, a ride, hi-hats. Dude, all of it sounded. I mean, I didn't know this at first. I thought they were rad, but then a couple years of playing those, I go and I hit some A customs and some Ks, and I go, uh-oh,
Whoa.
my cymbals are really bad. They sound terrible. So, um, yeah, I just don't think those are worth cheaping out on. So,
I agree.
anyway,
You need good cymbals. You can pass on
you
a
need good
cheap drum kit,
cymbals.
and everyone knows this. This is already like,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. All right, next one. You touched on this a little bit when we talked about the moon gels, but it says you should tune every drum to a specific note. Is that the go-to always? Do you always use a tune bot, or can you just turn knobs till it sounds good? What's the deal?
Mm, many methods to do this. So, again, keyword here is you should always do this. I mean, myth for sure, because you don't need to always do this. And there's, a million different ways to skin a cat, so to speak. That's a horrible saying, by the way. It's
Oh
like,
yeah,
what? Who's skinning a cat? Um, okay, so for example, I tune my toms to specific notes. I do. And but my kick, I'm not getting down there with a tune bot and going tapping on the lugs. And I'm not doing all that. Kick drum to me, the fundamental tone of a kick drum, so much to do with like head choice, what kind of muffling you're using, the size of the kick drum, what kind of beater you're using. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a low frequency that goes thud and then
Mhm.
it gets EQ'd and whatever. But kick drums are the easiest to make sound good. My snare drums, I do tune my snare to a note, but it doesn't work the same way because the second you pull the snare wires up, it's a different note. So like people ask me how I tune my snare. I go, okay, I pull the snares off, right? You turn the snares off, and then I will tune the top head to a note. But then once you put those snares back on, you hit it, it just sounds different. Right?
Yeah.
So um and then I also know so many drummers who are like insane drummers who sound great, who are great at tuning drums, and their method is literally tune it like just mess with it until it sounds good. And they've been doing it for so long that they have a good feel for it. I've been doing it so long that I don't need a tune bot. I could sit there and twist things until it sounds good.
You
No
know what you
question.
want to hear, and
I
you've
know what
done
I,
it a million times.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
the kick. That's the kicker though. You have to know what the end goal is.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're looking for, you're just turning knobs. Good luck. Most people have no idea what a good drum sound is. They don't even know what the end goal is. I know exactly what the end goal is. So,
What
no, you
about
definitely
reso
don't need it.
heads? Hold on, real quick. This is a
Yeah.
side myth. I've heard people say that you don't. have to change your reso? Like guys will just never change your reso heads, like ever. Like they'll have the stock ones on there. What do you think? Do you have to change those out frequently, or
No,
pretty,
I think you could leave them on. I
like
think you
never
could
change
you
them?
you could never change them. I think
Mm.
you could just literally never change them. I think you could use the stock. A lot of drum companies, if you buy a brand new drum kit, they'll send you, the stock heads.
Yeah,
And
the
what ends up,
Remo, they're ambassadors clears, right?
yeah, they're typically ambassadors, but depending on the drum brand and the year it was made and all this stuff, my understanding, this could be incorrect, but like my understanding is like Remo has a second factory, like or something. They use like a cheaper version of the heads. Like there's like a made in Taiwan or made in China like version of the heads that
Mm.
comes with it from the factory.
Okay,
Something like that. The only reason
sounds right.
I've the only reason that sounds right is because I've gotten a brand new kit with stock heads and gone, these are like kind of crappier Emperors on here. Like how these don't feel this something feels a little funny about these like heads with a Pearl logo on them. It's
Yeah,
not all it's but it's not all the time. It's not all of them. So it's kind of a crap. I don't really understand that, to be honest. And they're
yeah,
not bad. They're definitely not bad. They definitely sound fine. Like you can play those. Like the same thing with like like the heads that come on a DW kit that have the white.
yeah,
They're great.
yeah.
They're great. Are they the same as the ones you buy at a Guitar Center? I'm not really sure. Like I actually don't know, but they're great. Point I'm trying to make here is that on the Rezo side specifically, whatever heads come stock on the drum kit, bro, you could spend all day. You could try all kinds of different Rezo heads. I'm telling you, man, I'm a huge proponent of two ply on the top, one ply on the bottom, tune it properly, use muffling to manipulate the sound of the drum.
Mm.
I'm a big fan of doing that versus using heads to manipulate the sound of the drum. What I mean by that is, so like there's guys who will put controlled sound black dots on the bottom on the Rezo side. I've tried this before. It was a giant waste of time and money for me personally because I went out and I
Would it just
bought,
deaden the tom?
yeah, and it just wasn't, it was harder to tune. Like it
Yeah,
didn't, one of the general rules of tuning a tom is that the batter head is lower than the Rezo head. So the Rezo head's tighter. Does this
yeah,
check out? Right? Everybody says
yeah,
tune the reso head higher than the
yeah,
certain heads. Certain heads don't want to be tuned way up. Like in this example that I'm using, the clear black dots. I don't. Those heads don't love being tuned super high, in my experience. Like they do fine, but like ambassadors love to be tuned way up,
yeah. They want to
right?
sing. Yeah,
They want to sing. They love to, if you ever put an ambassador on your snare drum, just to like such a fun experiment, by the way, for anybody listening. If you have a snare at home and you're like, what does a snare drum actually sound like? Put a single ply head on it.
yep,
Put a thin single ply head. Put a coated ambassador on there and tune it up to a range where it sounds good, and you'll be able to hear all of the drum because it's the most sensitive the drum will be because it's not being dampened by a thicker head, right? And that's why people love ambassadors. Like, dude, I would play an ambassador on stage if it didn't like live, but I would just destroy the head.
yeah,
That's why.
yeah,
That's why I play an X14, which is a one ply, but it's just a thicker one ply,
yep,
right?
yep. It can take
So
the beating a bit longer.
take the beating a bit longer, right? So,
Yeah,
what am I getting at here? Sorry, this we've totally sidetracked here, but point is, I think you can keep whatever reso heads are on the bottom of your toms and just leave them there because you can manipulate the sound of the tom in better ways. For example, like if you want that sound of a thicker reso head, like a black dot on the reso head or pinstripes. I've seen guys put pinstripes on there. I've tried it. I put coated heads on the bottom once. All this stuff, I'm just like, nah, just give me back to the single ply ambassadors on the bottom. And then if I want to manipulate the drum, the best way I've found to dampen a drum, by the way, is to put cotton balls inside the toms.
mm. I learned that from you.
This, yeah, this is that to me is like the ultimate because once you find the sweet spot for your drums, it's not the same for every drum. It's not the same for every kit. It's not the same for every tom. But once you find the sweet spot for your toms, like I would try starting with like three cotton balls in your rack toms and maybe four or five in your floor toms, and you tear them up and put them inside there so that it creates one. If you take three or four cotton balls and you tear them up, it'll coagulate and kind of make one kind of like wide
Like pad
cotton
thing.
ball, that pad
Yeah.
thing that sort of sits on the bottom of the drum, and then you hit the drum and it goes like this on the bottom on the reso head. It'll just kind of like hop up and just almost like gate it.
Huh.
It's like a natural gate. And that to me is a really effective and soft way to like dampen the reso head uh, in a way that I just think is really effective, and you still get so much body out of the drum without just like without going and buying $100 in new heads just to replace the reso heads. There ain't no
Yeah.
point in that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, that's a good point. I did try the cotton ball thing. I remember I kept experimenting like all day. It's taking the head on and off, bro. I was like, oh, let me put four in there
sucks.
now. No, let me put five in now.
Yes. It sucks trying to it sucks figuring out the sweet spot, but once you figure it out, because you have to take that the top head on and off, but once you figure it out, bro,
It's
that's a
money.
nice hack. That's a really, really nice hack. Because you'll find yourself oftentimes you'll find yourself not even needing moon gels, you know? So
Yeah. So there you go. Anthony figured it out for you. If you want to try it, start with three in your toms and like 4 to 5 in your floor tom. You should have a good
yeah,
starting base there.
go five on if you have a 16 or an 18 floor tom, go five. And then I would say do three on if you have a 10, 12, 13 rack, something like that. Try
Three.
three in those bad boys. And then
Love it.
go up or down as necessary. But it's better to start with less. Like that's the low end. Two, if you put two in a rack tom, you probably won't even really notice. You might notice it, but like on a 10-inch tom, you might notice. But start with three. If that's not enough, throw a fourth one in there. But you'll realize if you put like five in a 10-inch tom, it just destroys the. It's like gone. The tone is gone. It's like
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So you'll find the sweet spot that you like. To recap that part, it's a myth that you need to tune to a note. You don't have to do that. I think it's the best way to do it, but you don't have to do it. You can make your drums sound great without doing that. Because people who are great at tuning drums, who are great drummers, they might not be specifically choosing a note. They might not be going, oh, C and a G, but they're so good at tuning drums because they've been playing drums for so long that their idea of twisting and turning until it sounds good, once it sounds good, I bet you those toms are in the same key. They
Yeah.
don't even know it, but that's that interval there, that dun 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 dun, like you're looking for an interval that's in it's in key with it. So anyway,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Yep. Love it.
So
All right. Let's see. We got a couple more here. Practice pads don't help with real drumming. Like, let's assume it's a practice pad kit. I mean, is that, I guess, right? Or do they just mean a cymbal or a snare pad? I mean,
I'm not sure. My guess here is that this is a because practice pads are not all the same, right? Some practice pads are so awful that I would say they don't help. Some
it's
practice
hurting
pads
you.
are so bad that I go like, dude, just this is like if you spent the first 5 years of your drumming journey playing on a $300 electric kit, I think you're doing yourself a disservice, in my opinion.
I agree.
I think it's not like it doesn't help. That would be a lie. It's better than nothing, but to 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 translate that to a real kit, uh,
It's going to take
it's so
work.
much different. Oh my God, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
the all the nuances of drumming come from the fact that you're playing a live instrument, right? How you hit a rim shot, how you hit do you hit the middle of the snare? Do you hit the side of the snare? And look, I know that like modern electric kits have all this fancy technology and they have, 17 triggers per drum and you can do this and blah blah blah. It ain't the same, dog. I don't care what anybody says. I think it's all cool. I think practice pads are cool. I think electric drums are cool, but you want to become a great drummer, you need to spend 10,000 hours on a real drum kit, period.
Yep.
So, do they hurt your drumming? No. Is it better than nothing? Yes. But practice you cannot just sit on a practice pad all day. Like I I see it happen a lot, unfortunately. Guys will tell me, "Oh, I haven't had a practice space in years. I either can't afford it or it's not convenient because I live in an apartment or this and that. And I have this e-kit set up and I go, don't spend too much time on that thing, man, because you're gonna find yourself I don't know. I personally got into drums because I think they're cool and I am forever obsessed with the sound of real drums. The sound of real drums will always pull on my heartstrings. I just don't think you could ever replace that time. So I think
No,
practice pads are cool, but they're not the end all.
no, and dude, and one of the most important aspects of drumming, as we both know, is dynamics. And the new E kits, you can be a little dynamic on them and whatnot, but like you said, like a rim shot, you can't get a real rim shot unless you're hitting a real drum. You know, your cymbal work, tapping on it or washing it or crashing it. Like the E kits, they suck at translating that. I'm just gonna say
They
it.
suck at translating all that. And like back to the practice pad thing. I mean, there's a reason so many marching band drummers are terrible kit drummers. And that's no
Yeah,
knock on marching band. It's just I mean, those guys spend all day playing real drums. Like they're playing quads, they're playing snare drums, they're playing big bass drums. Like their rudiments are crazy, their hands are crazy, they can read sheet music, they can march and play at the same time, they can do all this stuff, but a lot of them can't play a kit to save their life. If you take that same idea, it's like, well, if you spend all day just on a practice pad, it's like, yeah, you could get your hands really good on a practice pad, but that doesn't translate to like sitting in the pocket
yeah.
on a kick
No,
snare hi hat. So,
yeah, you got to have a real drum kit. I agree. I think
and
practice pads, let's see, it says practice pads don't help with real drumming. It does, but it's not recommended to
it
like,
helps for sure, but you're not going to create, like you said, dynamics are like the most important part about drums. And
yeah,
you don't discover your own dynamics and your own sound on a practice pad because they're
there you
very
go.
one dimensional.
There you go.
So let's put it that way.
They're good for
Yeah.
warming up. Just stick to
Good
warming
for
up
warming
on them.
up, good for warming up, good for working out little ideas, stuff like that. But if you're
Sticking pattern.
sticking patterns, but I always say to guys like what I do on stage might not look crazy. You might not be able to tell with the naked eye, but I've spent 23 years learning how to hit a rim shot. So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, can you play drums on a practice pad you could play drums on a practice pad only for 23 years. You're never going to know how to hit a rim shot, how I hit a rim
Facts.
shot.
Facts.
That's just a fact. You're just not
Yeah.
going to be able to do it. So you learn how to hit a rim shot by literally thousands and thousands of hours of hitting rim shots.
Yeah, it's like riding a bicycle or driving a motorcycle.
Yeah,
You gotta
exactly.
you gotta learn how to
You
drive
can
this big fucking motorcycle now. It's got
Yeah,
power.
it's got power. It's got
Yeah.
gear. And like, you gotta clutch with your left foot and you gotta like,
Yeah. Yeah.
or shift with your right foot or shift, you gotta deal with a lot of different stuff. So,
Yeah, and there's no
man,
bullshit of like mistriggering. Like if you hit your hi hat pedal, they're closing together. On my E kit, it like won't do it sometimes.
I know it's so fun.
So
E-kits
lame.
piss me off, dude. One day though, I am gonna be, one day I'm just gonna splurge and get one of those like $5,000 Roland whatevers. That's just to have one at home. Like I think
Yeah.
because I love playing real drums so much, I pretty much unless I get rich and can build a studio in my backyard, I'm pretty much always gonna have a lockout that I go play drums at. But it would be really nice to have one of those really expensive Roland kits that actually is like pretty fun to play. Because that's the thing about those kits though, is that they're fun to play for like an hour, and then I'm like, you know,
Yeah, I'm over it. It's still an E
I'm
kit.
kind of it's still an E kit. But
Yeah.
like I said, the really high end ones where like it looks like you have a real kick drum and like they almost
Yeah.
look like real toms and stuff like that. Like Evan Ambrosio from the band State Champs, he's always like practicing on one of those. Like I do think those are pretty cool. And I would want one in my house one day, but call me when I have $5,000 to burn and I'll go get one.
Yeah. Do a little experiment. This is the last one we're looking at here. If you're naturally talented, you don't need to practice. Like Xavier Ware. Does he need to
Myth.
practice?
Where's a microphone to slap?
I know, right?
Yeah. Um, say it again. If you're naturally talented, you don't need to practice.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as being naturally talented. I just don't believe it. I think there's people who have a gift for rhythm, and there's people who have a gift for picking up patterns quicker than others. I think it's a spectrum. So, for example, I tried a lot of stuff as a kid, like a lot of different sports, activity. Like for me as a kid, it was like soccer, skateboarding, snowboarding, mountain biking, BMX riding, even rollerblading. When I picked up drumsticks, I went, oh, the first time ever, I went, oh, I got a knack for this. I could just tell. But I'm not Xavier Ware, right?
Yeah.
I'm not Luke Holland when he was 16. Like Luke at 16 was like, what?
Rip. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, what is going on here? There's something I think some people have, and it's not true for everything. It's just true for maybe just for drums or maybe other stuff in life. They pick it up quicker. I'm not sure, but like I think I picked like if it's a spectrum, it's like okay, I'm here. I picked up drums pretty quickly. Well, a Xavier Ware or a Luke Holland might have picked it up even faster. They picked up ideas and stuff. Maybe it's because of their who they're around or their access to it or whatever. But you cannot skip the hours. In fact, I was just talking with a buddy the other day about Alex Rudinger playing with Trivium and how
Yep.
much better he sounds than basically, not every he's in my opinion, he is a absolute shoe-in top three metal drummer on the planet, but I'm actually gonna put him maybe even top two. Um,
Up with Eloy.
yeah, him and Eloy. If you're talking about guys who can just play anything with
Mm.
extreme power and accuracy uh, in the metal world. And the common denominator between both of those guys is tens of thousands of hours practicing. Alex Rudinger is has been practicing drums like a maniac since he was a young boy. And to this day, he still practices a lot. And guys, if you want to be truly elite, you need to put in so many hours that and the thing is, if you're questioning yourself, if you're going like, "Oh man, I need to work hard, I need to do this," they're not thinking that stuff. They just do it. They're just going. They're just practicing all the time. So,
Yeah.
no, you can't replace the hours, dude. You might have a knack
Yeah.
for something, but you might have a talent or a knack for something or a shoe up, a shoe in because your dad is in the business or whatever. But if you think you're just gonna like get good on raw talent, that ain't true for anything, bro. I don't care
Yeah.
what anybody says. Look at Jalen Brunson, bro.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson just won the Knicks their first championship in 50 something years, 60 something years, whatever. This guy was not some highly recruited talent. He's 6'3". He's
Yeah. He worked his ass
like
off.
6'2". He worked his out. He outworked everybody around him to become the player he is today.
Yeah.
So and if you see a guy like Xavier Ware and go, "Oh my God, how does he play drums like that?" That didn't just fall out of his ass, bro. Like Xavier sucked at drums one time too. He just spent way more hours playing drums than you have. That's
Yeah.
the truth.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, and he still
yeah.
practices nonstop every day. That guy, I mean, we had him on the pod. He loves drums. Like it's
I
his
was
life.
thinking about this today. I was literally thinking about this morning. I have a show tonight in Fargo, or it's a couple hours outside of Fargo, and I'm sitting here because I woke up early, and I'm like, I would love to go play drums today. And I was literally thinking about Xavier like 2 hours ago because I was like,
I bet he's
it'd be fun
playing.
to go find a shed and I don't know if there's anybody in Fargo shedding drums, but it's like it'd be fun to go find and like that's some shit he would do today. He would wake up and be like, who's playing drums in Fargo, North Dakota?
Yeah.
Let's get
Yeah,
it.
he would. He would. And he'd get there and he'd fucking rip it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, dude, let's do this again sometime. This is fun. Well, if anybody has any fun drumming myths, uh
Yeah, drop some comments.
yeah,
Absolutely.
hit us with it.
We can make this a
Um
regular segment where, every once in a while we do a drum myth rundown and we talk about it. So,
yeah, this is awesome. This is a really good one. I just thought of a really good one, but we'll save it for next time.
all right,
So,
bet. There you go. We got some
yeah.
cooking for next time.
Hell yeah. All right, guys. Well, hey, this was fun. Thanks for listening. Joe and I are keeping the podcast going. It's like it's not always easy with how much we're both traveling and I'm all over the place. So, you're going to see a lot of hotel room backgrounds and all that stuff, but like we're committed to keeping this podcast going and we fully believe that if the content of what we're talking about is worth a damn, that people will listen regardless of if we're sitting in a podcast studio or in a hotel room in Fargo, North Dakota. So,
Yeah.
um, anyway, thanks for listening. Go check us out on all the platforms. Tell your friends, and we'll talk to you guys later. See you later. Bye bye.
Peace.